Hey, everybody out there. Welcome to the sixth installment of the Morph Music VR live stream. I want to thank you all for joining. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all that stuff. Happy holidays. Glad you could make it and hang out here. It's been a while since I did the last one of these, and I want to give some updates, let you all know how it's going, and then very excited to have another special guest, another artist joining, which is always exciting to have the people who helped to bring the music into this project come and chat about their music, chat about the project with me. And then I'm going to do a performance, live performance of their song as well. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Hey, welcome from Oklahoma. Nice to see Oklahoma in the house. Okay, so very quickly, for those who haven't joined in the past, Morph is an abstract music VR experience for the Oculus Rift, Rift S, Quest 1, and Quest 2. I'm hoping at some point that I can release it for other VR platforms, so more on that in the future. And in the Morph VR experience, it's not a game, it's more of an interactive musical experience that uses tracks from artists. So I've reached out to all these amazing electronic, ambient, experimental artists to contribute music. And I bring their music into the experience. It's all the individual forms. So all the individual tracks that make up the song are separated. And then those are brought into the experience for you, the player, to interact with. And what you do is you can sort of manipulate these objects to create a dynamic, immersive, ever-changing spatial audio soundscape, if you will. It's great for headphones. It's binaural. Which means that the Unity system is trying to place audio all around you in 360 degrees. And so when you bring one of these audio objects close to you, it is loud, and when you push it away from you, it gets quiet, just sort of like how the real world works acoustically. And then if you put something to the left of you, you hear it to the left, and when you put it above you or below you, behind you in 360 degrees, it tries to create this binaural spatial audio experience. So that's Morph. I'm going to be posting some links over in the chat section for you to grab. The first one I'm putting here now is the link to the VR project itself. The app is free, and you can go to SideQuest and you can download it for Mac and PC to run on your Rift or your Rift S. Or if you have SideQuest and you've gone through the process of setting up your Quest 1 or Quest 2 to do side loading, you can get the app there and it'll load it right to the headset. So that's where you get that. Morph also comes, again, that's free. And then the app also comes with a free soundtrack, and that is over on Bandcamp, and I'll post the link now to that. And so the soundtrack is free, go and grab it, and it's 9 amazing tracks from ambient, electronic, electroacoustic, experimental artists, such as my special guest tonight, Matt Mercer, is going to be joining in a few minutes, and so his track, Entropy, is there, and I'll be doing a live VR performance of Entropy later on. So those are the links to that. If you missed the earlier live streams, you can go and see those also here on YouTube. They're all archived. I just posted a link to the playlist, so you can check those out. And then for those who might be watching this video later on, I'm going to put all these links down in the below section, so check out below. And if you want to watch the other live streams. And thanks for following me on YouTube. That'd be great. Hit the subscribe button and check out future videos. So cool. So here are the updates. Probably the biggest update I have is that after sitting in the Oculus submission process queue for quite a long time, I actually got approved, which is fantastic. And that's approved for the Rift. So that means if you have a Rift or Rift S and go on to the Oculus store for that device, I will actually show up there. I have no idea where I'll show up there, so at some point I'll probably have a direct link that I'll be able to post. But that will let you go and get the app, and until then you can get it on SideQuest. And that will go live on the Rift store on January 7th, so in only about 2 weeks. So that's super exciting. And then I'm continuing work on the version 2 version of Morph. The one that's out there now is essentially a public beta. So I wanted to get it out and start to get feedback and see if I could find bugs and just at least start to promote it. And that has the 9 songs in it. But meanwhile, I've been working on the official version, which I'm hoping to come out in early-ish 2021. I don't really know. My guess is I'm aiming for March 1st. But a lot of it is I don't know how long it will take to get through the Oculus submission process. And I also am really hoping that they turn on this part of their store for the Quest that will allow apps like mine to be on the Quest store. I think that's like an uncurated experience. But they've announced that they're going to do it, but they haven't really said when, and so I don't know what's going to happen. But that will be really great because that means for everybody that has Quests 1s or 2s, that doesn't do the whole side loading thing, it'll let you actually install the app directly to your headset right from the Quest store. So we'll see how that goes. And so, working on progress on the V2 official version, adding more songs. I'm hoping to have about 15 songs up from the 9 that are in there now. And I've been adding a lot new interesting art. In fact, I just brought on a couple of artists, Unity artists, who've been helping me out. And actually, in these live streams, including tonight, I'm starting to integrate a little bit of the new art that isn't in the released version. So you might see glimpses of that during the performance. And I'm very excited that we're now over 500 downloads of the app, which is great. And so, anybody go check it out. It's at SideQuest and SideQuestVR.com, and the soundtrack is on Bandcamp. So now I think it would be great to segue over and introduce my guest tonight. Matthew Mercer is joining from Portland. And let me actually get his feeds up and running. Hold on one second. Matt, let me get this working here. I'm going to turn on your audio and video.
Okay.
And do a little fade here. I'm going to squeeze over to the right-hand side of the screen. And hey, welcome, Matt Mercer.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for taking the time to come and chat about your music, and I'm excited to have you. Thank you. Joining from Portland,
Yes.
Portland, Oregon, and Matthew and I have known each other for a super long time because we went to the same school together outside of Cleveland, and so what grade were you? Like when I was a senior, how old were you? Were you in middle school?
Yeah, I was 4 years behind you, so we never overlapped in high school at all.
Right. Okay. So you might have been in 8th grade when I was a senior, and that was the
Exactly.
transition. Yeah. So we've known each other for a really, really long time. Both our moms were teachers at the school, and what's amazing is watching people over the years who also go off and make careers or hobbies about making music, especially electronic music, and that's why Matt and I stayed in touch over the years. And so very quickly, I'm going to post your Bandcamp, Matt, in the chat so people can go and get that. All right, there's that, everybody. So how long have you been making music now, Matt? For 20 years, 15 years?
I'd say officially, in terms of releasing stuff out there to the public, about 20 years.
Yeah.
Longer if you count all the hobbyism and bedroom recordings.
Yeah.
We won't talk about those too much, though.
No, yeah, I occasionally go back and listen to those recordings, and I'm not super pleased with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, everything's a learning process, so take something away from it.
Yeah. And so what got you, I mean, were you always into music? Were you, or did you sort of like find electronic music, or what was sort of your journey into the world of music?
I grew up with a good amount of music, and I studied the organ actually, starting around age 5. So I had music in the house from a really early age. My brother played the drums. He's a few years older than me, and I got into electronic music probably like around the turn of the 90s or so, when I was a little bit older, to kind of form my own taste, and discovered Depeche Mode, The Cure, Skinny Puppy, kind of early in sort of like turn of the 90s industrial dance stuff, early techno, and then from there got more into kind of experimental music, abstract sounds, and ambient music.
Were you able to see? Were you too young, or were you able to see some of those shows back in the early '90s or late '80s?
Those I was too young. I did see the first really standout one that I saw was probably '94. Nine Inch Nails and Hole toured together. That was one of the um, early concert going experiences along those lines.
Yeah, right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I one of my biggest regrets was that I got into Depeche Mode at the after the 101 tour for Music for the Masses, which means I
Okay.
missed that tour, and that's my favorite Depeche album of all them. But I was very fortunate to see the Violator tour,
Oh,
which was
nice.
probably 1990 at Blossom Music Center, and that those 2 years saw New Order with PIL and the Sugar Cubes. I saw The Cure for the Disintegration tour. Yeah, I mean, I was really fortunate to see that those were my like favorite moments of those bands were those like late '90s, late '80s, early '90s albums.
Yeah, you're killing me because those are all my favorite records by them too.
Uh, I al-
I just couldn't get a chance to see them then.
I also just watched the Song Exploder with Nine Inch Nails, and I
Mm,
saw Nine Inch Nails before Pretty Hate Machine came out in Cleveland, also probably at the Agora or something back then.
yeah.
And so I saw so many fantastic shows from like 1989 to 1991 in Cleveland. Was pretty amazing. And of course,
Yeah.
since then, I'm sure you've seen some pretty seminal concerts over the years.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. And so, talk to me about ambient music and electroacoustic music and experimental music. Do you have one? Do you like of those genres? Do you sort of like, oh, I do all that stuff, or do you like really like lean towards one aspect of that side of the music creation?
I would say it's kind of all over the place, honestly. As far as the ambient stuff goes, I tend to lean a little more into the sound design, kind of darker, murkier sort of side of things, I guess. That's just what sonically is more interesting to me, and I like some of the mood of that. Um, but in terms of what type of music, how I come at music, I guess creatively, it's kind of is across the spectrum. Some of it's really up tempo and dance music. Some of it's real drony. Some of it's really kind of glitchy and syncopated and more rhythmic. So it kind of depends kind of what inspiration's striking at any
Sure.
particular time.
And I mean, I'm assuming, have you sort of similarly felt that you sort of move through these phases where you're just like, oh, I'm really into ambient techno. I'm going to sort of do that for a while, and either maybe you just get bored of it, or like sort of a new production technique comes up that sort of piques your interest, or what do you think draws you from sort of like genre to genre in that way?
I think somewhat it's just a restlessness of not wanting to repeat myself too much.
Mm,
So it's kind of
right.
about I think a lot of times I'll hear something that inspires me, whether it's another artist or something out in just sound in nature. And I'll start with that point of inspiration, and then inevitably it veers way off, far off from where that inspiration point started. So I tend to, with all the entropy stuff, I tended to just kind of wander around capturing sounds in Portland, in the neighboring area. And then I use those up against some of the stuff that I could find on Freesound using the Creative Commons Zero license, where people are
Oh,
kind of just
yeah.
share
Uh-huh.
material. And so that's a lot of the kind of I guess field recording, sort of more experimental, non-electronic synthesized stuff on that album, and the material that I get passed your way for the Morph project.
Yeah, right. How long did it take to? Was that an album that sort of like happened in the background, or did you just like solely focus on that? And then how long do you think it took you to sort of from the inception to the finished product?
It's a little more vague than some of the ones in the past, where a lot of times I get sort of an itch or sort of gain some momentum and sort of bang out, an hour or two of stuff within maybe a month.
Mm.
In this case, I had done another album called Supernatant that came out maybe 4 years earlier,
Okay,
and
right.
about half of the stuff on Entropy came actually out of those recording sessions and production sessions. So some of it was stuff that I just hadn't quite found a home for, and then some of it was stuff that I made brand new. A lot of the stuff with more kind of environmental sounds and sort of atmosphere was done more recently.
I see. Cool, cool. So, I mean, do you find that it's also true for you that if you know, you start something and it just doesn't feel like it's quite gelling, and then you'll put it back on the hard drive and it will sit there and you'll revisit it years later and breathe new life into it? Or do you find that sometimes where like you're like, nope, this isn't working. That's it. Like you're dragging it to the trash and are done with it.
Well, I'm really terrible about I can't usually completely erase things, so I always have
Right.
a digital pile of sketches and ideas. So yeah, but yeah, there are definitely times when something's sitting around for 10 years and then I come back to it, and either I come at it with different ears and it sounds really cool to me as is, or a lot of times I'll sort of consider, well, what's the thing that's held me back from feeling like this is a good idea, and then I'll just sort of subtract out all the things that might be kind of irking me or that just don't feel quite right. I think we're working on a new. I have a project called Microfilm that's more of a synth pop crossover.
Right. Yeah, love that.
And one of those tracks that we've been messing around with recently is something that I had shelved from, gosh, maybe 2004. So I mean, I don't think music really expires. It's just kind of some of the sounds may be a little of the moment,
Sure.
but I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
the overarching feeling or idea is kind of still there.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about your approach to doing the environmental sounds or field recording. What sort of gear or what sort of like setup do you use to try to capture that stuff?
It's pretty unsophisticated, if I'm honest about it. I have a portable mic, and I'm totally gonna blank on the name of it now.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
have it
fine.
handy. That plugs into the Lightning port of my phone.
Okay.
And that's been pretty handy. So some of the sounds, I'm not sure. I can't recall actually if they made it into the final mix that you did. That's available online. But the some of the sort of road noise sounds in Portland, I did using that just in my daily commute. But some of the other stuff I recorded with an Edirol M1. It's an old handheld recorder that works with a flash drive.
Oh, okay.
I've had that for probably close to 20 years now, so it's done me pretty well. And that records with better fidelity and a lot better kind of stereo signal. So if I'm
Yeah.
doing anything where I actually really care about the sort of lateral positioning of things a lot more, that's probably the better way to go.
I see. Yeah, yeah. Do you find that you just chuck that stuff in a bag, and if you hear something, you're ready to go, or do you actually like, okay, I'm gonna go out and actually capture some sounds and go to different locations, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. I usually have to have the notion that I'm planning to do it. I rarely have a sound in mind. If I have a really specific sound in mind, I'll probably go try to source it
Yeah.
online on Freesound or something like that. Because chances are someone's done a better job of it. But if it's if it's really, I just want some inspiration of something to work from, it's usually I'll just sort of carve out an hour, go out for a walk or a drive and do some capturing, and then sort of see if anything comes out of it. I mean, a lot of times it's just sound for sound's sake, and it ends up on something or it doesn't, but it's usually a good starting point when I'm looking for inspiration.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Well, I'll have to say, so the inclusion of your song Entropy in the Morph project, your song definitely stands out because it's probably the least song-like and the most soundscapey, the most experimental. I think even I don't even know, I can look and see, of all the tracks that are in here, some songs that I've included don't actually have many tracks, and yours actually has quite a few. It looks like there's maybe about 30 to 33 different tracks of audio. And they get really experimental, right? Like I think I grouped them into 4 categories. And so I think I've got all of your outdoor field recording or processed field recordings. And then you've got these really interesting drone synth elements, but none of them really even get super musical. They're more sort of like synth percussion, I guess. Was that how you would sort of consider them?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I think some of them some of the sounds I gave you are actually concrete sounds of coins or objects hitting the tabletop, and then they've just been run through so many effects that they turn into weird sort of feedbacky reverbs.
Yeah, right. Uh-huh.
And some of it is really just the result of taking things like recordings of rain or recordings of like plastic bags making sound, and then just running those through a bunch of different manipulations. So maybe I flip it backwards and then chop it apart and then run it through some crazy modulation. And a
Uh-huh.
lot of
Yeah.
it's just kind of iterating and piling things on and hoping that something interesting comes out of it. And
Right.
then taking that and sort of seeing how all those different things can fit together into something that feels right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and then one of the groupings are the coins, the coins and the writing. I
Oh
grouped
yeah.
together. Talk a little bit about those as sound sources.
The coins, those are recordings from a really long time ago, actually. Those are
Hmm.
probably at least 15 years ago or so. I was really just I'd seen the film Modulations, which is a doc about dance music culture from probably around 99 or so.
Yeah. Okay, I remember that vaguely.
And I'm not even going to do it justice because I'm not going to remember who it was that they were talking to. Somebody was recording concrete sounds of cabinets and things shutting, and so that got me kind of interested in taking really mundane sounds and seeing how those can turn into something more musical.
Yeah.
And the coins, I think it was really, I kept just taking them. I didn't like the idea of it just sounding like a coin rolling around because that's felt a little sort of cheesy to me. So
Sure. Yeah.
I just kind of ran it through effect upon effect upon effect, and I think it has some reverb, a delay, some kind of feedback modulation on it, and it becomes this weird sort of haunted. I don't even quite know what to call it, like a digital scrape or something.
Oh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And the writing, I think that was something I had heard about the idea of automatic writing, and so I pretty much just decided to set up the recorder and just wrote continuously what stream of consciousness, whatever came to mind, and I couldn't tell you what it was now because it wasn't
Sure.
anything particularly
Yeah. Yeah.
inspired, but I really like the idea of that sound source as something that's very familiar, that is such a quiet and small little everyday sound, but it's really distinct of moving a pencil to paper.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's super interesting. I have to say one of the reasons that not in addition to the fact that your song stands out because it's the one that sort of strays the furthest away from the sort of musicality, is that because it's a lot of field recordings and process sounds and a fair amount of noise, just sort of imbued in the different tracks, is that from a spatial audio point of view, it works quite well. I think in one of my previous live streams, I went on a little bit of a rant about spatial audio and what aspects I think work well from like an ambisonic or binaural point of view, and much to my chagrin, I have this personal opinion that musical elements don't actually work that well. I have found that they work great when you're doing ambisonic recordings, right? If you go into a real space that has really great acoustics and you have real performers and you set up an ambisonic mic and capture that moment and listen back with headphones on, it really sounds like you're there and it really sounds like the sound sources are all around you. But when you're trying to sort of synthesize a spatial audio experience using musical elements that were captured just in a recording studio, right? They don't have their own natural acoustics to them, and so you're sort of faking these acoustics to give it spatial audio attributes. Doesn't work great because it doesn't always work great for low frequencies and things of that nature. But your track works amazing because it has so much noise in it. It's almost like the broadband noise really has a lot for the spatial audio algorithm, the plugin, to actually grab onto. And so when I listen on headphones, it's actually quite an interesting experience, and in some ways maybe shows off the spatial audio the best, I think.
Yeah, I think it lent itself pretty well. I had a little bit of experience with the concepts of 360 sound, but I hadn't actually produced anything intended to be used for that.
Uh-huh.
So I think some of what probably helps that along is when there's no concern for for, I guess, key or scale, then
Yeah.
there's a much bigger sonic spectrum. And a lot of the way that I made those tracks, I guess on the one hand, you got a little bit of a bonus because you got material kind of across a whole record,
That's
so not
true,
just
right?
one
Yeah,
track.
that's right. We did do that. Yeah.
So it's a little more varied, I think, than one single track might be. But I think also I tend to try to mix it in a way that some of the frequencies aren't fighting each other. At the same time, it's a mixed bag because they aren't from one specific track, but I try to make sure that the low end isn't fighting too much with something else. And hopefully that kind of helps with some of that ease of clarity.
Right. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, great. I think, given now that we're talking about the track, it might be great to segue over and have me do the performance of your song Entropy. Any last things you want to talk about? Tell people out in the internet ether?
I would just say thanks for listening, and if you want to check out more of my music, it's available at matthewmercer.bandcamp.com, and I also have music and videos at my website, mattmercer.com. And the most recent thing that I put out over the last few months is two different comps. One covers dance music and one covers kind of more headphones listening, as well as an EP of really pretty minimal droney stuff called Separate that came out in the summertime, kind of peak COVID sort of anxiety. So yeah, those are all available to stream at Bandcamp, so check it out.
Very cool. Yeah, I posted links in the chat, and then for those who are watching later on, check below. There will be links to that stuff. Well, awesome. Thank you, Matt, for taking the time to join on this holiday weekend. Thanks for making great music and letting me use your song in Morph.
Oh, thanks so much for including me in this very cool project.
Awesome, cool. All right, well, I'm going to sign off with you, Matt, and
right.
I'm going to get things over. So thanks for joining.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. Everybody, that was Matt Mercer joining from Portland and talking about his track Entropy. And so in a second here, I'm going to get set up to do a live VR performance. I do my performances using a Quest 2. I do use the link cable here, and I run it directly out of Unity. And so I can get a higher frame rate and fidelity coming out of it. And very quickly, I just want to check the chat here. Hey, thanks everybody for joining. Power Paper 1, thanks for joining all the way from the beginning. It's like that you're here. Chef Baba, thanks for helping me get this live stream stuff done. Reg, nice to see you. Tycho Burr, thanks for finally making it to one of my streams. Hey, Lori, thanks for joining. Oh, nice to see DV joining from Germany. She actually joined a few weeks ago, a month ago. She has a track in Morph also. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining. And if you weren't able to see this live, thanks for tuning in at a later time to check this stuff out. So now what I need to do is get Unity up and running. Once again, I will post a link to Matt's Bandcamp here in the chat. So there's that. And I'll close this stuff down and start to get set up here. Okay, so last week I had a little bit of challenge getting this stuff running. And that was over on Twitch. And so I have migrated over to YouTube here, hoping that things might run a little bit smoother. So let me get Unity. Looks like Unity is running. That is great. Okay, so I'm going to turn my feed off here, and this is a song called Entropy by Matthew Mercer in Morph VR.